Hello everyone, Dr. Alan Mandell here. Welcome back to my channel, Science of Healing. If you're over 60 and you've noticed your legs feel weaker, your balance isn't what it used to be, or standing up from a chair feels harder than it should, this message is for you. And here's the surprising part. The problem may not be your knees, it may not be your hips, and it may not even be your age. Very often, it's weak or inactive glute muscles. The glute muscles, especially the gluteus maximus, are the largest, most powerful muscles in your body. They are responsible for walking, standing upright, climbing stairs, protecting your lower back, and keeping you stable. But after 60, these muscles quietly weaken, and most people don't realize it's happening. Why? Because we sit a lot. After the age of 60, something begins to happen inside the body that most people never see, never feel coming, and never get warned about. It doesn't arrive with pain at first. It doesn't show up on a blood test, and no doctor points to it on an X-ray. Yet, it quietly changes how you walk, how you stand, how you balance, and how independent you remain for the rest of your life. That hidden change is the slow shutdown of the glute muscles, and it has far more to do with sitting than with aging itself. The glutes are the largest and most powerful muscles in the human body. They are designed to propel you forward, keep you upright, protect your spine, and stabilize your hips and knees. In younger years, these muscles fire automatically every time you stand, climb stairs, or walk uphill. But as the decades pass, especially after 60, modern life introduces a dangerous habit that biology was never prepared for: prolonged sitting. Research from biomechanics and neuromuscular science shows that when a muscle is kept in a lengthened, inactive position for long periods, the brain begins to reduce its neural input to that muscle. This is not muscle loss at first. It is a loss of communication. Scientists refer to this phenomenon as neuromuscular inhibition, and in the case of the glutes, it's often called gluteal amnesia. The muscle doesn't disappear. It simply stops responding when you need it most. One study published in the Journal of Orthopedic and Sports Physical Therapy demonstrated that individuals who sat for extended periods had significantly delayed glute activation during movement. That delay forces other parts of the body to compensate. The lower back tightens, the hip flexors shorten, the knees absorb more force. Over time, this compensation becomes the new normal, and the glutes fade further into silence. This is why so many adults over 60 say the same things. My balance isn't what it used to be. My back feels tired after standing. My knees hurt even though I don't do anything strenuous. These are not isolated problems. They are downstream effects of one central issue. The glutes are no longer doing their job. What makes this especially alarming is that aging itself is often blamed when the science tells a different story. Studies comparing active older adults to sedentary ones show that muscle activation patterns, not age, predict strength and stability. In other words, a 70-year-old who keeps their glutes active can have better lower body function than a 50-year-old who sits all day. Age does not shut down muscles, inactivity does. The human body adapts brutally well to whatever you repeatedly ask of it. If you ask it to sit for hours, it becomes efficient at sitting. The glutes, meant for power and movement, are placed in a stretched, inactive state. Over months and years, the nervous system stops prioritizing them. MRI and EMG studies confirm that glute muscle firing decreases significantly in people who sit for more than 6 to 8 hours a day, regardless of age. After 60, when muscle protein synthesis already slows, this neural shutdown accelerates weakness. The consequences are not small. Weak glutes are strongly associated with increased fall risk. Falls are the leading cause of injury-related death in adults over 65. A study in the journal Gait and Posture found that reduced glute strength directly correlated with poorer balance recovery during slips or sudden movements. When the glutes fail to fire quickly, the body cannot stabilize itself in time. There is also a metabolic cost. The glutes are large glucose-hungry muscles. When they are inactive, blood sugar control worsens. Research in diabetologia has shown that breaking up sitting time with muscle activation improves insulin sensitivity even without traditional exercise. When glutes go dormant, inflammation rises, circulation decreases, and fatigue increases. Perhaps the most shocking fact is this. Many people who walk every day still have inactive glutes. Walking, especially at a slow, comfortable pace, relies more on momentum and hip flexors than on powerful glute contraction. EMG analysis shows that glute activation during normal walking can be as low as 20% of maximum capacity. That means someone can believe they are active while the most important muscle group for stability continues to weaken. This creates a silent downward spiral. Sitting weakens the glutes. Weak glutes make movement harder. Harder movement leads to more sitting. And the cycle continues until standing up from a chair becomes a struggle, stairs feel intimidating, and confidence in the body begins to disappear. But here is the part that most people never hear, and the part that changes everything. The glutes do not need heavy weights or intense workouts to wake back up. Because the problem starts in the nervous system, the solution begins there too. Research on isometric contraction shows that simply contracting a muscle without movement can dramatically improve neural activation, especially in older adults. This means the glutes can be reminded of their role safely, gently, and effectively, even from a seated position. Neuroscience studies demonstrate that intentional muscle contraction increases motor cortex engagement. The brain relearns the pathway. Blood flow increases. Muscle fibers reawaken. This is not theory. This is measurable science. Within weeks, people show improved muscle firing patterns, better posture, and reduced pain. Not because they got younger, but because their muscles remembered their purpose. The tragedy is not that glutes weaken after 60. The tragedy is that people are told it's inevitable. It isn't. The body is adaptable for as long as you are alive. Muscles respond to signals, not birthdays. And the most dangerous signal we send every day is prolonged stillness. If there is one message to carry forward, it is this. Weakness after 60 is often a lifestyle echo, not a biological sentence. Sitting quietly steals strength in a way that feels harmless until the consequences arrive. But the same nervous system that learned to shut the glutes down can be taught to turn them back on. The future of mobility, balance, and independence does not begin with running or lifting or pushing through pain. It begins with awareness. It begins with understanding that sitting is not neutral and that small intentional actions can reverse years of decline. Because the moment the glutes wake up, the body remembers how to stand tall again. Most people believe that if they are walking every day, they are doing everything their body needs. They lace up their shoes, take a slow stroll around the block, and feel reassured that they are protecting their legs, their balance, and their future independence. Doctors encourage it, friends praise it. And for heart health, circulation, and mental clarity, walking truly is valuable. But here is the uncomfortable truth that science keeps revealing. Walking alone is often not enough to rebuild or even maintain glute strength, especially after the age of 60. This is not an opinion. This is measurable physiology. When scientists place electrodes on muscles and measure how much they actually fire during movement, something shocking appears. During normal, comfortable walking, the gluteus maximus, the largest muscle in the human body, barely turns on. Electromyography studies show glute activation during level walking can be as low as 15 to 20% of its maximum capacity. That means the muscle designed to propel you forward is mostly asleep while you move. Instead, the body relies on momentum, hip flexors, and smaller stabilizing muscles. Walking becomes a passive activity, not a strengthening one. And the older we get, the more pronounced this effect becomes. As stride length shortens and speed slows with age, glute activation drops even further. The very activity people rely on to stay strong quietly bypasses the muscle they need most. This explains a common and confusing experience. Someone walks every day for years, yet their legs still feel weak. Standing up from a chair becomes harder. Stairs feel intimidating. Balance feels uncertain. They wonder how this could happen when they are doing everything right. The answer is that walking is not targeting the problem. After 60, the nervous system changes. Motor neurons fire less efficiently. Muscle recruitment becomes less automatic. Strength no longer comes from movement alone. It comes from intentional activation. Walking does not demand that kind of focus from the glutes. The brain chooses efficiency over effort and lets other muscles do the work. Research published in the Journal of Aging and Physical Activity shows that older adults who only perform aerobic activities like walking experience continued declines in lower body strength compared to those who include targeted muscle activation. Even more telling, balance and fall risk did not significantly improve with walking alone. Strength did, and falls are not a minor issue. 1 in 4 adults over 65 falls each year. Falls are the leading cause of hip fractures, and hip fractures carry a mortality rate of up to 20% within 1 year. Strong glutes are a major predictor of whether someone can recover from a stumble. Walking does not train that rapid, powerful contraction needed to save you in a split second. There is also a biomechanical cost. When glutes are weak, the body finds another way to move. The lower back arches more. The knees collapse inward. The hip flexors tighten and shorten. Over time, this compensation leads to chronic pain. Studies in clinical biomechanics show that people with low glute activation during walking place significantly more stress on the lumbar spine and knee joint. Walking without glute engagement can actually reinforce faulty movement patterns. Even more surprising is that increasing walking distance doesn't fix the problem. Long walks at a slow pace do not suddenly turn glutes back on. In fact, prolonged walking without strength can increase fatigue and further reduce muscle firing. The body protects itself by doing less, not more. This is why so many older adults feel exhausted after walking, yet notice no improvement in strength. Their muscles are not being challenged, they are being carried along. There is also a metabolic misconception. Walking burns calories, but it does not preserve muscle effectively. After 60, muscle loss accelerates in a process called sarcopenia. Without targeted activation, the body breaks down muscle tissue, including the glutes, even in people who walk daily. Muscle is metabolically protective. Losing it increases insulin resistance, inflammation, and frailty. Walking alone does little to stop this decline. A study in the journal Medicine and Science in Sports and Exercise found that resistance or isometric muscle activation had a far greater impact on muscle preservation than aerobic activity alone in older adults. The implication is clear. Movement without activation is not enough. The most dangerous part of this myth is psychological. People believe walking gives them immunity. When weakness appears, they assume it is age. They stop trying. Confidence fades. Fear of falling increases. And fear itself changes how people move, making them more rigid, slower, and more vulnerable to injury. But the science offers hope, and it comes from understanding how muscles really work. Muscles do not respond to repetition alone. They respond to signal intensity. They respond to conscious contraction. When the brain intentionally tells a muscle to fire, neural pathways strengthen. Blood flow increases. Muscle fibers adapt. This can happen even without movement. This is why targeted glute activation, especially isometric contractions, outperforms walking for rebuilding strength. When you consciously squeeze the glutes, you force the nervous system to reconnect. MRI and EMG studies show increased motor unit recruitment within weeks. Posture improves, gait becomes more stable. People walk better not because they walked more, but because the right muscle finally joined the movement. Walking should be the expression of strength, not the method of building it. Without a strong foundation, walking is like driving a car with the parking brake partially engaged. You move, but you wear everything down faster. The message is not to stop walking. The message is to stop relying on it alone. Walking is cardiovascular maintenance. Glute activation is structural insurance. One keeps you alive, the other keeps you independent. When the glutes wake up, walking changes, stride length increases, posture becomes upright, the body feels lighter, balance improves, walking becomes safer, more efficient, and more enjoyable. But that only happens when strength comes first. The real danger is not inactivity, it is misplaced confidence. Believing that walking alone is enough allows weakness to grow unnoticed, and by the time it becomes obvious, the consequences are harder to reverse. The truth is simple and powerful. Walking keeps you moving, but intentional glute activation keeps you standing strong. And after 60, strength is not optional, it is survival. There is a moment in aging that few people talk about because it happens quietly and without warning. It's the moment when the body begins to lose confidence in itself. Standing up takes a second longer. Balance feels uncertain. Movements that once happened automatically now require thought. And most people assume this is the unavoidable price of getting older. But science tells a very different story, one that begins not with age, but with a forgotten muscle and a signal that was never sent. The glute muscles are not just for movement, they are guardians. They stabilize the pelvis, protect the spine, and act as the body's primary shock absorbers. When they function properly, every step is supported, every turn is controlled, and every rise from a chair is powered. When they go silent, the entire body reorganizes itself in ways that slowly increase pain, weakness, and risk. What most people don't realize is that glute weakness after 60 is rarely a strength problem at first. It is a communication problem. The muscle is still there. The fibers are intact. What's missing is the signal from the brain telling those fibers to fire. This is why so many people feel weak without visible muscle loss. The nervous system has simply stopped calling on the glutes when they are needed. This is where one of the most underestimated tools in human physiology comes in, the isometric contraction. An isometric contraction is when a muscle tightens without changing length. No movement, no joint strain, just a deliberate signal sent from brain to muscle. And research shows this type of contraction is uniquely powerful for reawakening dormant muscles in older adults. Neuroscience studies demonstrate that intentional muscle contraction increases activity in the motor cortex, the part of the brain responsible for movement control. When you consciously squeeze a muscle, you are not just strengthening tissue, you are rebuilding neural pathways. This is critical after 60, when nerve signaling slows and automatic activation declines. A seated glute squeeze may look simple, even insignificant, but under the surface it triggers a cascade of biological events. Blood flow increases to the muscle, oxygen delivery improves, motor units begin to fire in synchrony again. Over time, this restores the brain's confidence in using the glutes for daily movement. Clinical research supports this. Studies published in journals of rehabilitation and gerontology show that isometric exercises significantly improve muscle activation and strength in older adults, even when performed at low intensity. In some cases, participants showed improvements in balance and mobility without any traditional exercise program. The key factor was consistency and intentional activation. The safety of this approach is just as important as its effectiveness. After 60, many people avoid exercise not because they are unwilling, but because they are afraid. Afraid of pain, afraid of injury, afraid of falling. A seated glute squeeze removes those barriers. There is no impact, no joint compression, no risk of losing balance, yet the benefits reach far beyond the chair. One of the most shocking findings in aging research is how quickly balance can improve when the glutes re-engage. Balance is not just about the feet, it is about how fast the body can stabilize the pelvis during unexpected movement. The glutes are central to this response. When they are inactive, the body reacts slowly. When they are active, stability returns. Falls are not caused by weakness alone. They are caused by delayed muscle response. A study in the Journal of Applied Physiology showed that older adults with better glute activation had significantly faster postural correction during slips. That fraction of a second can be the difference between catching yourself and hitting the ground. There is also a profound effect on pain. Weak glutes force the lower back to overwork. The spine compresses, the hips lose alignment, knee joints take abnormal stress. Chronic pain develops without a clear cause. When glutes are reactivated, load redistributes naturally. Pain often decreases, not because anything was fixed, but because the body finally started working as designed. The metabolic benefits are equally compelling. Large muscles like the glutes play a major role in glucose uptake. When they contract, they pull sugar out of the bloodstream independent of insulin. This means regular glute activation improves blood sugar control. Research shows that even brief muscle contractions can reduce post-meal glucose spikes. For older adults, this translates to better energy, less inflammation, and reduced risk of metabolic disease. There is also an emotional shift that occurs. Strength restores confidence. When people feel stable, they move more freely. Fear decreases, movement increases. This creates a positive cycle instead of the downward spiral that so often accompanies aging. What makes the seated glute squeeze so powerful is not intensity, but intention. Sitting upright, placing feet flat on the floor, and deliberately contracting the glutes for several seconds sends a clear message to the nervous system. This muscle matters. Holding that contraction teaches the brain to maintain engagement. Repeating it reinforces the pathway. Over time, something remarkable happens. Standing up becomes easier. Walking feels smoother. Posture improves without effort. People often report that they feel taller, lighter, more grounded. These changes are not psychological. They are neuromuscular. Studies show that within weeks of consistent isometric activation, muscle firing patterns change, EMG readings increase, stability improves, and because the exercise is gentle, adherence is high. People actually do it, and what you do consistently is what changes you. Perhaps the most important truth is this: independence is built from small actions repeated daily, not from heroic workouts, not from pushing through pain, but from reminding the body what it is capable of. A chair is not a symbol of weakness. In this context, it is a training ground, a place where strength can be restored safely and effectively, a place where the nervous system can relearn trust in the body. The tragedy of aging is not decline, it is resignation. Believing that weakness is inevitable causes people to stop sending the signals that keep muscles alive. The seated glute squeeze is a reminder that the body is still listening. Because the moment the brain reconnects with the glutes, everything above and below them begins to work better. Balance improves, pain eases, confidence returns, and the body remembers that strength was never lost. It was just waiting to be called back. And that call can begin today, sitting exactly where you are.